Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemietteINSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
Cnc Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, Cnc provides patient-centered care for your entire family. Cnc Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We're live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios. What a beautiful day here in New Orleans. And of course, we'll cover all the home teams today. The Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, the University of New Orleans. We'll run through all the gamut there. And of course, to break it down for us, one of the best we have in the city, sports director over at Fox 8 Sports, Juan Kincaid, joins us on the program. Juan, welcome to the show.
Nice
How are you, my friend?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Nice to be back again.
Good to have you. Before we get started, talk a little bit about what you guys got going on over at Fox 8, all the great programming.
I was going to say things are calmed down now that football season's over, but it really hasn't because they're still talking about the Saints after post-draft and Pelicans trying to get to the playoffs, dealing with that. We've got all our shows during the week. Fox 8 Overtime comes your way on Thursday night. So it's busy. Right. It's still busy. Not as busy as football season is, but still going.
Yep, and of course, the final play, wrapping it all up on a Sunday night.
Final play on a Sunday night, yeah.
Yep, no doubt.
It's been fun.
Let's start off with the draft, and of course, again, a lot of people, let's say this. The national pundits were not impressed, by the Saints draft. I think those of us that follow this team, that cover the team, that live here, kind of maybe realize what this draft was about. I mean, Peyton talked about Clear Medicals, the prototype. I called it a position prototype draft. They were going after guys that had the measurables at positions that they felt they need. Now, we can quibble over the fact that maybe Peyton Turner was picked a little bit high. To me, I felt like it was a fallback pick when they went up to try to get the two corners. And ultimately, again, they had to pay a king's ransom for him. And they decided at that point to just fall back. And they had a guy that they had pegged that they were going to go after if that ultimately happened. I mean, like what happened with Andres Pete a few years ago, where, again, there was the same situation. They were looking for the defensive tackle. They kept falling off the board. They ended up, again, falling back on an offensive tackle. They didn't need one at the time, but they fell back and, of course, they ended up moving to guard. Yeah. Your overview on the draft itself, and then we'll kind of get into specific players.
Well, I think they went into the draft with a lot of picks, and I think they came out with some quality players. I think where everyone's disappointed is we go back to maybe a couple weeks ago when Sean Payton was at the Pro-Am, and he basically told everyone, we got to fill that cornerback spot.
Yes.
And so I think naturally our thinking was, that's going to be the first pick. Got to find a cornerback. Need a cornerback opposite Marshawn Lattimore. And when it doesn't happen, and I'm sure the Saints made numerous attempts, we'll never know, numerous attempts to try to move up in the draft and grab the guy that they wanted. But sometimes, Eric, you have to take a step back and say, you know what, is the player that we want to get worth the price we have to give up? Because we have other needs on this team. It's not just we got to fill cornerback position. We need a linebacker.
Right.
We need some defensive linemen. We need some offensive linemen. You got to think short-term and, of course, long-term in the football team. So I don't have a problem with how they drafted, because it's going to take a couple years, maybe 3 years, before you get an idea of how good this draft class really is.
Sure.
Which players are going to make it through rookie camp, mini camp, OTAs, and all that? Who's going to make it through there? If you look at the positions, defensive end, linebacker, defensive back, quarterback, offense, they addressed pretty much every position they had to address.
True.
It may not end up being the player, the right player for that position they got, but I think you kind of have to let it play out a little bit. And while the biggest problem with this team is that they don't have any money. They're really short on funds. And so the holes that they couldn't fill in the draft, they've got to figure out a way to fill them in free agency. And what's working in their favor, I think, is the fact that we're coming out of a COVID year where teams didn't make any money. And so therefore players that are in free agency now cannot command as much money as they normally would. So maybe that works in the Saints' favors to kind of fill some holes in what they couldn't get with the draft.
I agree. I think you'll see a lot of one-year deals. Out of players, because they don't want to be in a situation.
Well, everything's going back up next year too, because of the TV money.
Exactly. So they're going to be looking to be able to cash in again when you're talking about what's left of free agency. Look, the reports are they tried to get up again to get J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain, which were the two best corners. Again, those general managers were asking for multiple number ones going in, and again, most of this draft. If maybe you make that move if you've got Drew Brees still, but you can't give up next year's number one, not knowing what type of team you're going to have going forward. Yes, this team could still be able to draft at the back end of the draft, but it could be a situation where this team, again, could falter, for numerous reasons. Lack of depth, injuries, quarterback position doesn't work out. So you couldn't give up that first-round pick over the next couple of years, because you're not in the same situation you've been over the last few years. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, because also you don't know how well or how bad these quarterbacks you have now are going to play. And so maybe next year is the year you have to say, you know what, this is when we have to get our quarterback. We got to find him. We got to take a step back to go forward again. And I do believe this is going to be a telling season for this football team. How good is this football team really? They're not as deep as they were last season. That was probably the strength of this football team. You're talking about 1, 2, 3 players deep on almost every position, particularly on defense. You don't have that this year because of money situations. The quarterback position, we believe that Jameis Winston can play the position. But what we all remember is the last time he was a full-time starter, 30-30, touchdowns, interceptions at Tampa Bay. That's what's in our memory. Is he a changed quarterback now? We can sit here and talk all day long about how much he has been in practice with Drew Brees, with Sean Payton, picking their brains, watching them go through the motions. But until you're under center, that means nothing. You got some quarterback knowledge in the quarterback room, but when you step under center, what you did to get you to the NFL and what's kept you in the NFL is what you're going to revert back to, I always believe.
So you are who you are.
You are who you are. Can he be better than what he's been is what the Saints need. Or is it Taysom Hill, who understandably was still learning the position as a starter last year? So my point is you don't know what you have at quarterback. You think you know, but you don't know. And if what you know right now about the quarterback position, is it enough to get you back into the playoffs? I know they always say we're trying to win now, and of course every NFL team is, but this team is not a Super Bowl contender. I question whether or not they are a contender to make the playoffs because of the number of players they've lost and the quarterback position. Look at all the teams that don't make the playoffs. Why don't they make the playoffs? Because they can't find the quarterback. We don't know if the Saints have found their quarterback to take the place of Drew Brees. We're going to find out, though.
And to your point, they're on one-year deals.
They're on one-year deals. And so that first-year pick next year, it may be a higher pick because you haven't performed as well this season. So you can't give that up. I totally understand.
No, and I get it. And again, so on one hand, there's a huge need, but they got to be a different mindset on airline drive right now, because as you mentioned, there are unknowns at again the position on the team, which is quarterback, which is something you haven't had to worry about over the last 15 years. Let's talk about the draft itself. Peyton Turner out of Houston. Again, look, he's got tremendous upside. He's got exactly the prototype they're looking for in terms of a body. It'll be interesting to see again. To me, I want to see the jump from the AAC to the NFL, and that, again, it's just different when you're playing again on a Power 5 schedule as opposed to an AAC schedule.
Yeah, and we've seen that in the guy they have there already right now. So, in Marcus Davenport, he has not filled the need of a first-round pick that you gave up 2 picks to get. He has not played up to that level, and he played on the lower level, like Peyton Turner's recently played at Houston. The measurables are fantastic, but what can he do when he puts his hand in the dirt or in the turf?
True.
Can he get to the quarterback? Not a lot of sack numbers while he was at Houston, but maybe he's building towards that. We shall see. I do believe this sends a message to two people. I think it sends a message to Davenport in that if you can't get it done, we got a guy here that's going to step in and try to get it done for you. And to Cam Jordan, because he's on the back end of his career, we hope that in this new player, we have a guy that can step into your shoes once you decide to step away. So I think it's twofold with the Saints, but a lot of question marks here with this player.
100% agree with everything you're saying. And on the back end, remember, Cam Jordan is a guy that has come forward every time this team has needed to restructure a contract. He's got a balloon at the back end of his deal, which again, we talk about the Brees deal and of course the dead money there. The hope is that he continues to be a top player in this league and we don't see his skills start to diminish as this contract continues to balloon. Yeah,
well, I will say this, people always, give that player credit for readjusting his contract to help the team out. You know what, they're readjusting contract because they're getting more money.
And they're getting
just
up
stretching
front.
it out, and they're helping the team, but they're getting more money up front and getting more money in general. So let's not pat these guys on the back too quickly.
Pete Werner, what do you think? The linebacker out of Ohio State.
It's going to be interesting. I will say this. Their history with Ohio State players has been fantastic.
Yes, it has.
So there's no problem with going that route and grabbing him. My question is, you looked at this football team last season, and you saw how much success they had at the linebacker with DeMario and Juan Alexander. Alexander goes down. We'll see when he comes back and how good he is when he comes back, how much mobility he has, how much explosion. Is Werner in the same category in terms of physical ability, explosion, as Juan Alexander? Because we've seen he and DeMario together, that's as good a linebacker tandem that Sean Payton has had since he's been here.
No doubt.
Is Werner in that same category? Does he have that same speed, that same knack to the ball? Does he have the cover skills? A lot of question marks about him. But having said all that, I trust the program that he came out of. And I feel like when it comes to getting a player, Sean Payton understands that sometimes it is the program and how they were coached and the history we have with that program, and we'll take a chance on that guy. And I think that's what happened here.
I think you look at the football IQ.
Of course.
He checks the box. I think you look at the physical ability, as far as physical stature, he checks the box. He is a guy that I think is more suited to the Mike linebacker than the Will, but again, you'll see. The only question I have is, again, his ability to be able to cover linebackers and cornerbacks. I'm sorry, linebackers and running backs coming out of the backfield. I'm saying tight ends and running backs coming out of the backfield. Sorry. That's the only thing that I really kind of question. And I guess we'll find out very, very quickly. But look, the pedigree is there, right? Ohio State played in a lot of big games. And again, that's what you're looking for in a lot of cases. The third round pick is an enigma because when you're talking about Paulson Adebo, he's a guy that was all Pac-10 his sophomore and junior years. He only played 8 games in his junior year. Was a guy that, again, has all the measures the Saints are looking for in terms of a corner. Opted out because of COVID-19 last year because of the uncertainty within the Pac-12 conference. And so this could work out in the Saints' favor, as we were talking about before the show. This could be a situation where the guy falls because you're unsure in a COVID-19 year on again, if he can make that jump with only 2 years of college. But on the back end, if he would have played, maybe he would have been one of those top corners coming out. The question is he plug and play? Because that's what they desperately need. What are your thoughts?
I think he's picked high enough, and his numbers tell you that he could play early in the first year. Is he going to be the starter opposite Marshawn? I'm not sure about that. They have some money left. They can go out there and find themselves a veteran guy, not a top-tier veteran guy, but someone that's better than what you have in-house in all the young players and also the old veterans like a P.J. Williams and people like
Patrick
that. Patrick Robinson. Physical-wise, I think he's fine. 8 interceptions first 2 years. That raises your eyebrows and that, okay, this guy can play the position as a nose for the ball. He opted out, and Sean Payton talked about how players that opted out last year, it wasn't that big of a deal to them because you look at the body of work that you have to work with there, and sometimes you take a chance on a player. So I think this is a good move, and I would agree with you. Again, we talked about this before the show. The fact he opted out may have been the reason why he fell to the Saints, why the Saints would have grabbed him where he was, while he was still available at that point. Because if he continues on the track that he was going those first 2 years, he's a second-round pick. At least, no doubt. And again, the premium on corners in this league could have been a first rounder. So again, look, I'm there. Ian Book,
Everybody looks at, again, the size, the athleticism. Some thought taking Taysom Hill. Another one think the second coming to Drew Brees. What you like about him is, again, he's got all the measurables you want in terms of, accuracy. Got a pretty strong arm. He's won 30 games for Notre Dame, which, again, they play a pretty decent schedule. I think he's a backup right now, obviously. And maybe, again, they have something they can work with and develop. But, again, let's not anoint him as the second coming as a fourth-round pick.
Well, one question I want to talk to Sean Fazan about later today on our show is he's going to be a backup. Which backup is he?
Right.
Is he the backup to the starter, or is he the guy not dressing out on a Sunday?
Right.
Because you got to figure out what you're going to do with Taysom Hill.
Right. No, there's no doubt.
And Taysom has already said he's been training as a quarterback
Which scares
all off
me,
season.
I got to be honest with you.
All off season. Well, I would rather him train as a quarterback to get familiar and comfortable with the position. Right. But if Jameis gets a starting job, then all of a sudden
he's jack of all trades again.
He's jack of all trades again. So then Book is your second string quarterback. Right. He's the one with the headset on. So that's my question is, I know he's going to be a backup, but where is he the backup? And I like the fact he's been a winner. He's got a scar on his face. People are trying to associate with that with Drew Brees.
Of course.
I'm not so worried about the 6 feet tall thing because I think of all the quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson, he ain't that tall. Drew Brees not that tall. It's about, for me, accuracy, being able to move in the pocket, and that's something that he can do.
True.
And he's a consistent player at the position. The things that he does as a quarterback and has done in college, we didn't see a lot from Taysom doing that in college. The things that he can translate over and carry over to the NFL are things that Taysom's still having to learn in the NFL. Being able to get off your reads, make quick decisions, get the ball out of your hands. Those are things that even Peyton said, for example, there was a time last year where they couldn't run a hurry-up offense because Taysom wasn't used to running a hurry-up offense. Right. So you killed all your time. These are things that Ian Book will be used to doing because what has he played all his life? Quarterback.
Right. The other thing is, my opinion now, I think that Jameis wins the job.
Yeah.
Taysom goes back to jack of all trades. Why I said that scared me a little bit is, again, he's bulked his body up to get ready for the punishment of playing jack of all trades. Is that going to hurt him, again, if he's been practicing and working out to be a quarterback? But I think it's going to be a veteran guy. They got to have a veteran that can back up the quarterback, whether it's going to be, especially if it's Jameis. And I think, honestly, Book's going to be the guy that's going to be inactive on Sundays. Right now, okay? And I think that, again, unless he wows them in training camp and ultimately, again, gets to put it in a position where they feel like, he's a guy that, again, that we can have active on Sundays.
I think they're looking at Book mostly as a guy, if he does well in practice, do we see this guy as the potential of our future guy?
Right, I agree.
2 years down the line.
He's the first shot at the future quarterback for this team.
Exactly.
I'm with you 100%. Landon Young is a guy that is all SEC, out of Kentucky, 6'6", 310, can play either tackle position. And there are some that asked if he could play guard. He thinks he can move inside if he needs to. Saints don't have a vision for him at guard. But to pick up a guy with that pedigree in the 6th round, it's a pretty good pick.
It's very good. But it goes back to this Saints coaching staff.
Yes.
And the guys that work on the draft and work on recruiting and all that. They have a history since Sean Payton arrived here of finding quality offensive linemen late in the rounds. I mean, Zach Streif comes to mind, first guy.
Carl Nix.
I mean, the list is long.
Right.
And they found a way. And listen, the guy's going to have to be able to play two positions because that's how this offensive line has always worked.
I agree.
Either you're going to play center or you're going to play guard along with playing tackle. And the fact that you can play both sides gives you plenty of flexibility. Is he the guy that's going to follow in Teron Armstead's shoes?
Maybe.
Who knows? But he can sit there and learn behind Teron, and maybe next year you reevaluate that and see what you got there. But to pick up that quality of a player in the SEC, all-SEC player in the 6th round, you're not complaining about that at all.
Well, and look, Juan, at the end of the day, again, you win in the trenches, especially in the SEC. And he's going against guys that are going to be top draft picks. I mean, that again, every single Saturday he's matching. And again, in his position as an All-SEC player, he's probably matching up against the best defensive lineman on the other team. So again, that makes me feel pretty good about a 6th round pick. Now, again, look. We've seen situations where, again, they pick some linemen and they haven't worked out. This one looks like, again, at least on paper, it's a guy that can work out.
Real quickly, you were mentioning about Peyton Turner early on.
Yes.
Competition matters.
No doubt.
Who you play matters, and it matters especially in the trenches.
No doubt. But the good thing about Peyton Turner is, is, again, the coaching he's going to get on this team. And I think that was also a reason why they felt very, very comfortable in being able to draft him, because of, again, the defensive line coach and line coaches and what they've been able to do in terms of, again, getting these guys game ready, but also every year progressing. We've seen it. We've seen it with Granderson. We saw it with Hendrickson. And again, even though you've had a situation with injuries at times with Davenport, when he's been healthy, he's been a guy that, again, you can see can play in the NFL. So I think, again, with Peyton Turner, when they made the pick, they're feeling like, you know what, we got guys that coach this guy up. And you know, we'll see how it happens. Kawan Baker. Look, you're getting a 6'1" wide receiver who, again, has got really good deep speed, can catch the ball, can play the slot of the outside. Nobody knows what this kid can do. But, again, you got him in the 7th round. If he can play special teams, he's got a chance to stick.
And the biggest thing is you're hoping you have your next Marcus Colston.
No doubt.
I mean, if you got that, then you're good. But it's going to be hard for him to make this team, because I look at the receivers they have now. It's a lot of young players with potential.
Right.
That's exactly what he is. Can he get in there and get past the younger players that are there already? So I think it's going to be a stretch to make the team. But, you know, get out there. Maybe he's a special teams guy. We'll see.
Yeah. It's an unfair question, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Undrafted free agents. They've done so well in the past with undrafted free agents. As you looked at that list, anybody jump out to you? Anybody? A lot of people are talking about Williams. They think he could be a guy, the cornerback out of Syracuse, that might be able to stick. Anybody that really kind of stuck out to you?
I don't think anybody ever sticks out to me when it comes down to undrafted free agents, because the chances of making a team are slim to none. But you hope a guy just kind of rises to the crop, a cream to the crop kind of guy. No one really stood out to me, but I just hope, you know, it's one of those things where the more numbers you have, maybe the better opportunity to find somebody in that group, so we'll see.
I gave this draft an A for, again, position prototype, a C for selecting players where again, the consensus was, because if you look at where they drafted some of these guys, maybe a round before they were supposed to be drafted, based on what scouts have said, okay? And then, you know, to me, we won't know for 3 years, as you said, but so it's an incomplete as well. But again, in a COVID-19 year where they wanted clear medicals and prototypes for position, they got what they wanted.
Well, they got what they wanted. They maybe didn't get them where they wanted them.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you didn't get good players that can't provide something for your offense or defense. The question is how long do you have to wait for it? That's the biggest question. And I mean, I know it's great to have Peyton Turner coming in as a defensive end.
Is he plug and play?
Is he plug and play?
Right.
And I think this was the 1 year where you needed a guy in that first pick to be plug and play.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, Eric, a couple weeks ago I was saying, why not get a quarterback in the first round? This is the year to do it. Now we're hearing they try to get up to Mac Jones but couldn't get above the Patriots.
Yes, right. It'll be interesting to see again how that kind of plays out. But again, look, I think they've invested a lot in the two quarterbacks they have right now, and they're on 1 year deal, so they want to see what they're going to have. Next year may be the year that they end up. If Ian Book doesn't look like he could be a quarterback of the future. I think it comes down to, again, trusting the process and trusting Jeff Ireland. What he's done since he's been here.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's been fantastic.
Right.
I mean, if you're honest with yourself, you say that Jeff Ireland has been the reason why this team has remained constantly winning.
Look at the drafts before he got here and since he's been here.
They didn't have a lot of great drafts before he got here.
Which is the reason why, again, you saw 3 7-9 seasons.
And sometimes it requires going outside the building and grabbing someone with a different set of eyes and not a yes guy. And Jeff Ireland's been that guy that came in from Miami and said, you know what, this is how I see it. Let's try it this way. And his way has been the right way, him and Kai Hartley. So, I mean, Ireland's been the reason why this team is where they are right now, and I believe he will be the reason why they continue to go forward with a winning program if they can keep him in the building and doesn't leave for a GM job.
I agree 100%. All right. I still think they need a veteran corner. I still think they need a linebacker. I've talked about on this show continually, about $33 million wrapped up right now in Ramczyk, Lattimore, and Williams. I just don't understand for the life of me how they weren't able to get a deal done with at least Ramczyk, who you got to pay as one of the top tackles in the league. I mean, there shouldn't be a quibble about that. And that would have opened up cap room, would have given you an opportunity to hold on to guys like Justin Hardy and Malcolm Brown and some of the other guys that, again, that were the quality depth on this team that you lost. With that said, they don't have a lot of money under the cap now. They still have to sign their draft class. They're going to have to make a move one way or the other. It'll be interesting to see again how that plays out, but they have to go into the veteran market to get another corner, and to me, a linebacker as well. Where do you stand?
Well, I think that they'll have to go in the market and get a veteran cornerback. I agree. I think the reason why they held off on restructuring those contracts, because you can still do that.
Right.
You can still do it now. And now the value of those restructures is even greater now than it was 2 months ago. Now you've got guys that are still in the market that can help this football team if you go out and sign them, that are veteran players, but you can sign them for a lot less now than you could have 2 months ago when everyone was going after them. So I understand the reason why you hold off. Ramczak's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know that. They're going to save money on his contract by extending him. And they'll do some other players as well. And there'll be some players out there they can go after, but get him for a cheaper amount. Therefore, your dollar stretches out even further.
Right.
So I understand the reason why not being desperate. Say, okay, we got to re-sign this guy now, get that money, and go find this guy.
Right.
They need someone that's serviceable over there, someone better than Jason Davis, someone better than what you've had there before. Outside, I thought Janoris Jenkins was fantastic.
Yes, he was.
Someone maybe on his level or a notch below, and you'll be fine.
Right. Let's talk about the quarterback position.
Okay.
Jameis versus Taysom. Who do you think right now will be the starter for this team? So do I.
Jameis. I mean, he gives you the best chance to win because you have less teaching to do with him about being a quarterback. And I got to stick with what I've been saying for 2 years. Taysom Hill will never be a starting quarterback, full-time starting quarterback in this league, because I don't think that teams want to restructure their team so much to where they have to adjust to how he plays. And it won't happen here with the Saints, and it definitely won't happen. He's not Lamar Jackson. If he were Lamar Jackson type, then I would say, yeah, you can change your offense. But no team is looking at Taysom and saying, oh, he can get us 13 wins. No one's looking. Even the Saints, I don't think, are looking at him that way. And also, he does too many other things well.
That's the key.
Too many other things well. Special teams.
You lose a weapon.
Running the ball. Yeah, you lose a weapon. And that's and in a season where they've lost so many players already, you can't afford to lose him. Justin Hardy was fantastic on special teams. Taysom plays special teams. You can't lose two pieces.
No, it's true. It is true. And again, that was my mindset behind trying to get at least one of those guys, again, who you put a fifth-year option on, either Lattimore or Ramczyk or Williams, who you put a franchise tag on, getting those long-term deals done so you don't lose that quality depth that you have on this team and having to go out and, again, bring in new players, have to fit in the locker room, et cetera, which takes me to my next question. There's a vacuum in this locker room now. Drew Brees is gone. How do you replace that? Can you replace that? What does this locker room look like going forward? Juan, you've been in these locker rooms since you came to New Orleans. You started covering this team. You saw the difference in this locker room, again, when things were bad and also when things are good. But, Brees, again, was the defining factor in that locker room for the day he walked in that door. He's not there anymore.
No, he's not. And you think back to the days of Jim Haslett and those teams, and those teams were lost in the locker room, and it came out to the football field. Since Brees came in 2006, it's been stable. And it's not just Brees, though. This coaching staff and this front office have made a point to get the right kind of player mentally as well as physically into that locker room so it becomes it gels and there's no shock factor at all. DeMario Davis is still there. Alvin Kamara is still there. Michael Thomas is still there. Teron Armstead is still there. There's enough voices in that locker room to keep this locker room together. We know that Brees was the overriding factor. He was on the king on the mountain, but there have to be other guys to step up. And I believe there's enough voices, enough veteran voices in the locker room where the team doesn't miss a beat. Now, having said that, what happens in the locker room doesn't necessarily tell you what's going to happen on the football field. They're going to win football games. That's where the question marks are for me.
Well, big question mark because, again, you always have, with Brees under center, you always felt like you were in a game, could win a game. You walked in feeling very, very confident. You don't know what you have now. And that's the defining factor going into this season. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pelicans. We're going to get into some college football. We'll also touch on college baseball as well. Juan Kincaid, sports director at Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stick around and hear from our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhardt has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhardt's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhardt's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhardt's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort in life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Juan Kincaid, sports director at Fox 8 Sports, is our guest today. All right, Pelicans 30-36. They're in 11th place right now in the West. They're 1.5 games out of the 10th spot. San Antonio currently holds that. There are 6 games remaining. 5 of those games are on the road. 1 is at home. It's the season ender against the Los Angeles Lakers. Every team they play from here on out are in the playoffs. Every team they play from here on out are already qualified for the playoffs. First of all, do you think this team will catch San Antonio, overcome them, and get into the playoffs with just 6 games left?
If they don't play, they'll catch them. Because they seem to make up more ground when they're not playing than when they do play. San Antonio's lost 5 games in a row.
Right.
They have hit the skids right now. They are struggling, and Pop is having a time with that team right now. And that's a team that the Pelicans lost a huge game to last week.
Right. They have the tiebreaker. San Antonio has the tiebreaker.
They have the tiebreaker, so really you got to get 2 games. I don't know. I said yesterday on a radio show that I just don't think this team is disciplined enough to do what it takes to get into the playoffs.
Right.
But then you look at the teams ahead of them, and San Antonio, they're just struggling right now. They're where the Pelicans were a couple weeks ago. Just can't seem to figure it out. So I don't really know. My gut tells me they won't get there because winning 5 games on the road to close the season is difficult no matter what time of the year you're in.
Right.
But to finish, all the pressure on you and not knowing about Brandon Ingram's injury and how severe that is, Steven Adams is having some issues with his feet. I mean, you've got some serious question marks. So I don't know. My gut tells me they won't get there because there's just not enough time left to get there. And they're going to revert back to who they've been all year.
Yeah, well, again, consistently inconsistent is what they've been.
That's it,
all season long. Let's do a what if. If they were, because I think they got to win all 6 games, okay, to be able to qualify. If they win 6 games, they end up 500.
Yeah.
Okay, to me, that isn't, with everything that's happened this season, with the ups and downs, with, again, blowing game after game, the lack of defense. We go right all the litany of problems this team has had. If they can win these last 6 games and finish 500, this is a huge step up from what maybe we thought they would be going in. Now, look, I thought they were going to be a playoff team, but I thought a lot of those playoff teams at the back end wouldn't get to 500. Yeah. That would be to me that would be amazing. Now, I don't think they're going to do it, but that would be amazing if they could get to 500.
I think it would be amazing to get to 500, but I wouldn't be satisfied because I thought they'd be better than 500. Right. Not much better because it's still a young basketball team and they're getting used to a brand new coach and getting used to being around new players. But you made moves in the offseason because you thought it was going to better your roster and make you a better basketball team, and it has not.
True.
You've seen fantastic growth from Zion.
Agreed.
Maybe more than you could have expected in year number 2. Lonzo Ball, has he been better? Has he been worse? I don't know. Depends on what day it is. Is it 3 for 18 Lonzo on Monday, or is the guy scores 33 points on Tuesday? Brandon Ingram, I think he's taken a step back. We're still giving you 24 points a night.
Right.
But the problem with this basketball team is their inability to close teams out.
Yes.
And I would like to say that's something you learn to do the longer you are together.
No doubt.
But this NBA today is not about building.
Right.
Listen, we're on the verge of losing Zion. And I know it's only year 2.
That's true.
But I'm thinking back to Chris Paul. I'm thinking back to Anthony Davis.
The precedent
and I'm thinking
is
back to Zion. He's already said he loves playing at Madison Square Garden. I know some people heard everybody likes to play Madison Square Garden, but I heard, I wouldn't mind playing in New York when my contract is up.
Sure.
That's the approach I take with this basketball franchise, in that we've had 2 opportunities before with a franchise player, and we've screwed it up. You can't screw this one up, or can you?
No.
You've got to build to win now. These draft picks they got, I don't care about all that. I need some veteran players in here that can get this team into the playoffs and get Zion playing playoff basketball right now to get a taste of what it's like. Otherwise, you're going to have him exiting stage left.
100% agree. I think that when you're looking at this offseason, this is an off season where you take the next step.
You got to.
Unfortunately, when it comes to, again, trades or bringing in veterans, Griffin has not done well. Okay, and that's look, that's just honest. When it comes to drafting, he's done fantastic. I think you look at the maturation process of these rookies and these young players, they've gotten better. They have very good coaches on this coaching staff. Yeah. They're getting their players better. I think that the disappointment is the players that were brought in. Bledsoe has been an albatross for this team. He has not played. He's the second coming of Eric Gordon. Again, I like Steven Adams, but again, I thought he played a little bit better when he was in Oklahoma City. You look at J.J. Redick. He played well for Alvin Gentry. He, again, did not play well and looked like he didn't want to play for Stan Van Gundy since day one. The same can be said for Nico Melli, who played really well last year, but again was lost with Stan Van Gundy. So when you look at the veterans that they brought in this regime, they haven't worked out. But yet, the rookies, for the most part, the guys they've drafted have. It'll be interesting to see, again, what happens in the offseason, because I agree with you. You've got all these assets. The time to strike is now.
Yeah.
You have to be able to get better going in this season. You got to figure out what kind of team you are as well. You start off with Zion as a guy that was going to be in the post for you. Now he's just playing Zion.
Yeah.
So, okay, how are you going to surround him? And that to me is going to be the question that has to be answered going forward. And I'm a fan of David Griffin, but I just got to call it like it is. Look, doing a great job in terms of drafting. The guys you went out and made trades for, the guys you brought as free agent, haven't worked out.
Yeah, well, let's begin with Eric Bledsoe.
Right.
You have to want to be here. And everything, his whole makeup has said, I'd rather be elsewhere.
Right.
I mean, when you're running off the court and it's overtime, going to overtime, you're running off the court. I mean, it's just lack of awareness, lack of passion, lack of making good basketball decisions. Drew Holiday gave you everything you wanted in a basketball player, yet he's not here, and you trade him for Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe's not giving you half of what Drew gave you.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about scoring points. Offense. Bledsoe was a first-team All-NBA defender. He's not showing you that now.
Not close.
So that's problem number one.
That's the big drop-off there.
That is the big drop-off.
From Drew, not just Drew, again, scoring, not just Drew in terms of, again, his leadership, which, again, was a great leader for this team, but, again, defensively. You're talking about a guy who was first team and second team All-NBA in Bledsoe. You're talking about a guy in Drew Holiday who was a first team All-NBA player. Should have been last year, but he wasn't. Yeah. Okay? And you did not think when you traded for him the drop-off would be there.
You didn't.
Maybe offensively, because he's not the scorer that Drew is, but not defensively. And here you're watching Drew Holiday in Milwaukee doing the same exact thing he did here in New Orleans.
And they paid him in Milwaukee as he was well-deserved.
Right, and gave him the contract extension.
Yeah, you look at if you look at when David Griffin and them arrived here, and they went and got Lonzo Ball. All the talk then was Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive backcourts in the NBA.
Right.
All of a sudden, Drew's out of here for what supposedly be a better defending player in Eric Bledsoe, and that their defense at the point is terrible, which is the reason why teams are scoring 115 points a game, 114 points a game. This team has problems. I don't mind the Steven Adams pickup. I think he's been good.
He's been solid.
He's been solid. I think he was better than what you had there last year. But I think it's happening, though. He doesn't give you the offense that Jackson Hayes or the athleticism that Jackson Hayes gives you. And Jackson is finally starting to kind of sprout a little bit this latter half of the season. So you're seeing more from him on the court more and more. But as a basketball team, they just, it's not a talent issue, I don't think. I think it's a mental thing where they just shut down. Things are going so well, and all of a sudden they can't defend anybody. They look like they don't care about playing basketball. And I don't know how Stan Van Gundy fixes that.
Right.
I really don't. And there's a number of times where I've been surprised, and I love the fact that he's honest about the team.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't sugarcoat a win,
Never
doesn't sugarcoat a loss. But I always laugh when he says, this is a problem, I don't know how to fix it. And that tells me it's not for me to fix. Eventually, the players have to fix themselves.
Right. Agreed. I agree with you 100%.
Simple as that.
The question is, going forward, what's the future vision of this team? How much has it changed? And what are they going to do in the offseason? How do you surround Zion going forward? I agree with Brandon. Brandon's had to adjust to being Robin instead of Batman. Again, he comes in last year and has a really great year for this team. Zion hurt most of the time. So he had to be the alpha, he had to be the guy. Now he's had to try to figure out, okay, I got to try to fit with Zion because, again, let's just face it, he's the best player on this team. And in a lot of cases, some cases, no matter who you're playing, he's not the best, he's one of the best players on the court. So he's had to figure that out. So how do you surround Zion Zion with, again, players that can take this team to the next level and be not just a playoff team, a championship team. Because that's the only thing that's going to keep him here. Getting to the playoffs every year, you could do that in the NBA. 10 teams get a chance to go into the play-in game. Being a perennial team that is vying for a championship.
Well, that's the big thing. I think first step, though, you got to get to the playoffs.
Right.
Get yourself in there and get a taste of what it's like. Not just the play-in game, but the top 8. Give Zion a taste of what it's like. They've got some questions this offseason. First and foremost, what are you going to do with Lonzo Ball?
Right.
Because since you've gone to this point forward situation, the ball's out of his hands more.
True.
Saw last week his dad screaming about they're taking my son's opportunity away here. And I get it because he's used to having the ball in his hands. Players are going to play better in their contract year.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what sport it is.
Always.
That's just the way it is because they see those dollar signs. I got to pick up my game. Lonzo, I don't know if he's played well enough to warrant being brought back next year, not just because of his ability and how well he's played, but because how Stan Van Gundy wants to play at that position. Is it going to be Zion playing point forward most of the time?
Right.
If so, I'm not sure Lonzo Ball is a guy that wants to be that you want to have in this system, and I'm not sure he want to be in this system.
You like the fact that, again, he is coachable. You like the fact that, again, he's in the gym and he works on his game. He couldn't shoot. He worked with the Pelican staff, and it turned around his shot. The question is, again, on the open market, what will he get, and are the Pelicans willing to be able to pay that? Which leads me back to the trading deadline. If you were not willing to be able to re-sign him, then you boxed yourself in now. Because you need to get every player on this team outside of Zion Williamson is an asset. And you have to get something in return. You can't let guys go away for free. And that's one of the reasons why I said J.J. Redick wants to go to Brooklyn. Well, J.J. Redick should have played himself, so he could have went to Brooklyn. Yeah. They needed to get something in return. They got something. They got some guys that are stop measure guys in Johnson and a few other things, from J.J. You got to figure out what's going on with Lonzo Ball at the trading deadline. Now, what are you going to get in return? Maybe a sign and trade? Or are you going to get something of value? Or are you going to get a bad contract and get trash back? Yeah. That's one of the questions there. So again, I think you need to make your decision on Lonzo Ball at the trading deadline, not as when he's a restricted free agent, when other teams are going to have a chance to be able to, again, up the ante on you, and maybe you don't have a chance at that point to either want a match or to be able to get something in return. Yeah. That's my criticism of David Griffin on Lonzo Ball. That decision should have been made at the trading deadline.
No, I would agree with that, but I also say if you look at this roster, their biggest need's a shooter. They need shooting.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want Brandon Ingram jacking up 10 3-pointers a game because that's not his game. When he's in rhythm, yes, but he's a mid-range shooter that can also get to the basket. That's his strength. Lonzo can knock down a three better, 38%, which is pretty good.
Yes.
But he's not. J.J. Redick would have filled that role perfectly if he was that guy. But I'd like to see them have like a Nicola Melli, a stretch three. I didn't mind that. But they need to get themselves some shooting.
Right.
Some guys that can just knock it down.
And dogs on defense, because that's been a big problem.
And dogs on defense. But I like Johnson, the guy they brought in. I like Najee Marshall.
Who signed a new contract today.
3-year contract. I like him. He can play D as well. Right. I'm not so worried about the dog on defense. I mean, but I am worried about them having guys that are open and want to play defense, because that really is where it begins with this team.
The problem with Johnson is that he's a one-year rental. Yep. Again, his contract is too much. He's going to back on the open market. As a veteran, he's going to make too much money. You really can't bring him back. I do like, again, the development of the young players and the guys that are off the bench. I think you've found in the back end of this season some guys that can play for you, that can be your bench guys. To your point, you need some guys that can shoot. I think we need guys that can come in and play defense for this team, and you got to be able to figure out how you're going to surround Zion. My question to you is, I've always felt that Stan Van Gundy was a bridge coach. He's not the guy that's going to bring this team to a championship, but he's a guy that is going to teach a lot of these young players how to be NBA players, how to play defense in the NBA. I've said all along there's an expiration date on Stan Van Gundy, just on the type of coach that he is. Is he a guy that they bring back next year? Or are they looking now at saying, we need another coach that, and it's unfair to him because he didn't get an off season, right? He didn't get a chance to teach defense, but they need a new voice in that locker room. Here's the problem. That would be 3 coaches for Zion in 3 years. Yeah. Leaving college, then you got Gentry, Van Gundy, and then if they brought in another one. What do you think happens?
I don't think he goes anywhere. I think that's making a move too soon.
I agree.
And I would agree. Part of it is you've had the most unusual pro season in the history of the NBA. in a long time.
Right.
And that COVID affected everything you try to do. You're playing 70 games, and most times you're playing 4 games a week. You have no time to get your install in. You have no time to make adjustments. This is an unusual season. I think this is a mulligan season for NBA.
Yeah.
And so I think he comes back next year. I think Stan Van Gundy is the right coach for his basketball team because, yes, he is a bridge, but he's also taken a team to the final. Think about the Shaquille O'Neal team back in Orlando, took that team to a championship. You know, I think that he's the right coach for his basketball team right now because he can relate to the younger player. He can get his message across to him. But I think he needs to hire someone with a better defensive mind that can get these guys more defensive minded.
Right. But that's his forte too now.
That's his
He's
forte,
a great defensive coach.
But his message is not getting across.
No.
But at the same time, the message he's sending out seems pretty clear.
Right.
But you have to have players that are willing to receive it and execute.
Especially veterans that need to buy in.
Especially veterans that need to buy in.
And that's been the big problem this year is the veteran buy-in. From J.J. Redick to Bledsoe, all the way down the line, the veteran buy-in.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to bring in my opinion. Let's shift gears to LSU. Let's start with football. T.J. Finley announced yesterday that he's going into the transfer portal. We discussed it before we came on the air today. Look, it's a little bit of a crapshoot here because with the transfer rules down, without having to sit out a year and moving directly to another university and being able to be eligible immediately, when you have an overabundance of talent at a position, you chance losing guys and then being to a point where you can be depleted. Where again, you got all your eggs in one basket, you get a couple injuries now, and you're not as deep as you once were because guys are moving on to play elsewhere, and especially at the quarterback position. Look, Finley proved he can play on the Division I level. And my fear is, again, he ends up with another SEC team. Talk about this loss, and what do you think this means for the quarterback room now and in the future?
T.J. Finley is a guy that's been an LSU commitment since his freshman year at Ponchatoula High School.
So you guys were covering him in high school, right?
Ponchatoula High School.
Right.
He has bled purple and gold. And so I really feel bad for the kid that he's having to make this decision to leave LSU, which is where he's always wanted to go. Does he end up in the SEC? We'll see, but that's the risk you take with this new transfer portal thing because players can go right away and play right away. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. He has such a big body, strong arm, still a young quarterback, but has the ability, won at Arkansas, and was it Arkansas and Florida last year? He won 2 road games last year.
Right.
Vanderbilt. He is a quality quarterback, but he wasn't better than what you had in the room already, and that's the problem. And then you're bringing in Garrett Nussmeier, who's a good freshman coming out of high school. Next year you got Walker Howard coming in, who looks the part of a guy that can step in and challenge for the starter's job in year probably 2. TJ's biggest problem was LSU winning the national championship. That was his downfall, and not his fault.
Right.
When Joe Burrow comes in here and takes the team to a championship, all of a sudden LSU is on the map as being one of the premier programs to go to for a quarterback.
Right.
Think about before he came in here, no great quarterback was going to LSU. They couldn't find a quarterback
looking
for
for
years.
water in the desert. You couldn't find one.
Les Miles couldn't find a quarterback for years.
Come on.
A quality quarterback for years.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Burrow takes them to a championship. They win it, and the offense, Joe Brady being there, the offense has changed to be more pass happy, more quarterback friendly. So you start bringing in better quarterbacks that were better than T.J. Finley. I think if it had to all do over again, Finley may not go to LSU because he looks at what he has to deal with competition-wise. That, you know what, maybe it's not the place for me. So I feel bad for him. The next question I have going forward here is, what happens if Max Johnson becomes his team starter in the fall? What happens with Miles Brennan? Miles Brennan's pretty much been promised his job once Joe Burrow left, and he did absolutely nothing wrong
Played well last
when he
year,
had the opportunity to play before he got injured. But he's losing his job, possibly losing his job because he got injured, basically, not because the other quarterback was better.
Got 2 years of eligibility left, too.
He will go somewhere and play right away, and he'll be a starter somewhere else as well.
So then you're looking at, now all of a sudden you're looking at a quarterback room that's full of
young,
talent.
unproven talent.
Okay, and then now you end up with Max Johnson and Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the chance you take here.
It's the chance you take, which is why I'm saying, you know, if I am Miles Brennan's dad, I'm going to Les Miles and having a heart-to-heart.
Right.
We're talking in June and saying, look, what's the deal with my son? Is he going to be the starter? And if he gives me any indication that he may not be, I'm talking to my son and saying, you know what, maybe we should look somewhere else. Because I've always been a believer that you don't lose your job when you're in the locker room because you got injured or whatever.
Yes.
Certain circumstances may change that, but I feel like that he did nothing wrong to lose his job. He is the best quarterback on that team. I know Max won some games for you, but he is the best quarterback, in my opinion, on that team. And that's a lot for me because I was the last guy in my office that was sold on Miles Brennan.
Brennan, right. Let's shift to women's basketball.
Okay. Kim Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey. Talk about how big of a hire this is.
Fantastic. They could not have asked for a better hire. Could not have gone give the AD credit.
Yeah.
He said, you know what, this is what I want. It's time. And I believe they tried to get her back there before they hired Nikki Fargas,
right.
before they hired her. But Kim was building something there at Baylor for 21 years. Wasn't ready to go.
Right.
This was the perfect time. She's won 6 national championships, 3 as a coach,
Right.
3 as a player, one as an assistant, 2 as a player.
Yes.
And she is what this program needs right now, and she's already gotten
I think she's what the university needs right now, especially with all the Title IX sexual harassment, assault to cover up.
She's taking a lot of the heat off that university in terms of attention.
Right.
I think she's going to be fantastic there. Not just because homegirl comes back home to coach at a state university, but because the players that she's going to bring with her, her reputation is second to none in college basketball. And the players that she was recruiting at Baylor, of all places.
Yes.
Listen, no one's trying to move to Waco. No offense to Waco. It's a fantastic city.
Right.
I've been there.
Me too.
But it's nothing special about Waco.
No, it's a college town.
It's a college town. And so the players she was able to recruit at Baylor, there's no reason why she cannot get that player to step on over to LSU.
Right. And she's already done it.
And own the state. And she's already done it, yes.
It's already
You're
done
going to see more of that. Talk about transfer portals that's open.
Oh no, this is the perfect look for her. It's the perfect time, especially again with the changes. She's going to get a lot of players that either were looking at Baylor, were already committed to Baylor, on the Baylor team, but also again, just her persona in college basketball. She's going to be able to recruit nationally, and this is going to be like again going back to when Sue Gunther and Pokey Chapman had this program. They're going to be back on top again.
Well, you know it's going to be interesting going forward, Eric. First off, look at the players she has on the roster now, and look at the kind of players she wants to recruit there.
Yes.
There are going to be some hurt feelings on that team right now because they didn't play up to expectations last season, not making the NCAA tournament. She's there to win a championship, and it was interesting in her press conference. She says, look at those banners, Final Four, Final Four. I don't see any championships. That's why she's there.
Right.
So the players that she's going to recruit there, some of those players on the team now, hurt feelings getting bumped out.
Yep, and that's the way it happens.
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it happens. Baseball, tough year so far.
Yep.
They're in 11th place, so they qualify for Hoover at this point. They got a big series at Auburn this weekend. 27-17 overall, 7-14 in the SEC. It's hard to even say 7-14 in the SEC. Yeah. But this has been a tough year for Maneri. There are some that, again, they're pushing him to retire. Again, he's pretty much put it out there. Look, this is baseball. This happens every once in a while. What are your thoughts on this LSU baseball team? Now, look, they get into Hoover. They still got to win some games here to really kind of catch the eye of again, the NCAA to get into regional. Maybe they make it on reputation, but there will be no postseason baseball at the box.
Not at all. Not this year. No. And what helps them, that Ole Miss series win, the nationally ranked team, what helps them also is winning at least one against Arkansas last week, and the number 1 team in the country. But it has not been typical LSU baseball this year. Their pitching has really let them down. Their middle relief is terrible. And I don't know why they continue to struggle in that area, mid-relief. But Landon Marceau, fantastic. Right. They've had good starting pitching. They've got a good hitting ball club, but they've struggled to get runners around. Auburn, Alabama, Texas A&M, 3 teams in the West. You've got to win all 3 of those series to get yourself close to 500, to be in the consideration of making it to a regional. I think they can do it. I think they're playing better baseball now. They are. And you're playing in those 2 of those 3 teams, they're struggling this year. They're in the same situation that you are. Right. You need a sweep of Auburn, but you need at least 2 wins.
Tulane having a great season. They're at first place in the American Athletic Conference, 24-14, 13-2 in the conference. A big series this weekend at East Carolina.
Yeah, East Carolina, number 2 team in the conference, and normally the top dog in the conference. This game will tell you all you need to know about what Tulane is bringing to the table. Because in there, you didn't lose a game in the month of April?
I don't think so.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they lost 1 game in the month of April. It was the 1st of April.
Right, might have
they
been.
They were 12-1.
Right.
And then they carried over 13-game win streak into May.
Right.
Fantastic baseball. Now, having said that, a lot of those wins came against Memphis, one of the worst teams in the conference. So you have to kind of table it with, okay, we won some games, but they weren't against great competition. This weekend, it all changes. Travis Jewett deserves all the credit in the world because of the job he's done there. When the pandemic hit last year, they were like 15-3, something like that.
They were ready to roll.
They were in the national polls, playing well. So you hate to see that happen season end, but they bounced back really well and playing some great baseball.
Finally, in the Southland Conference, UNO's 25-19. They're 20-12 within the conference. SLU is atop the conference. UNO's in second place, 26-15, 18-10 in the conference. UNO Central Arkansas this weekend. SLU after beating 19th ranked Southern Miss last night. They got Nichols this weekend. And these guys are battling all the way down. And look, the question is, are you going to get more than one team in the NCAA out of the Southland?
It's going to be interesting because typically they don't really.
Right.
But Southeastern and UNO 1-2 in the conference right now. UNO won the series against Southeastern last weekend. So those two teams, as even as they can be, can Nichols get up a few more spots to kind of be irrelevant in the conference tournament? We shall see. But baseball in Southeast Louisiana is really good right now, except for LSU, and you hope that they can find a way to turn things around.
You go right through the state.
There's good baseball around
really
here, but the crown jewel of baseball, LSU, is the team that's having the most struggles, and we'll see if they can bounce back.
Got a minute left. Willie Fritz stays at Tulane, or does he move on to another university?
I think Willie Fritz is where he wants to be. I really do. I think he can coach at a higher level, not a Power 5, but I think he can coach at a higher level team. But I think he's got a program there. It's like, I think, like Curtis Johnson. When he came there, he started getting different players there to kind of up the program. Willie's taken the baton from Curtis Johnson and gotten even better players there. And now Tulane is trying to establish itself. The problem I have is that they feel themselves a little bit. They start winning some games, and all of a sudden they think they turned that corner. But the teams you need to start beating, the Memphises, the TCUs, the Tulsas, Tulsas, the higher groups in your AAC, you need to start beating those teams. Until you do that, you really haven't gone that far. You become an average football team.
This is a huge year for him to take the next step.
You've got a quarterback there. Here's my thing. If TJ is available, would Tulane look at him? And if they do, who do you go with? Who's your better quarterback?
Well, I mean, again, you'd have to see how it plays out because Pratt's done a really good job.
And
they got Iabetta backing him up as well. It'd be interesting to see again how that plays out. I think he's going to an SEC team, though. I think TJ Finley's going to try to stay Power 5.
He's good enough to do that. But I'm saying if he would fit everything Tulane wants to do up there.
You better believe it, no doubt. Juan, always great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, sir.
Juan Kincaid, Sports Director at Fox 8 Sports, our guest today on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, as I've said many, many times, plenty of ways to catch this program now. We're live streaming on YouTube at 1 o'clock each and every Thursday afternoon as we do our live broadcast here on LAE. Tonight, our first rebroadcast at 6 p.m. on WLAE-TV. 10 o'clock on The Deuce, WLAE-TV 2. On Friday night, 9 o'clock Pelican Sports Television, 10 o'clock on WLAE. Saturday morning at 2 a.m. on The Deuce. We finish up Saturday afternoon, 5 p.m., Pelican Sports Television. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, and always on our social media platforms as well. You catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. That's drive time 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, again, Anchor is our podcasting home, but it's on all the major podcasting platforms. You can check it out there. That's each and every weekday, 4 to 6 for radio. Again, special thanks to our underwriters, also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Tommy O'Connor, Will Ingram, and of course my director, William Hill. Thanks to Juan Kincaid. I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.